Oh man, that intro never gets old. What is up, everybody? You are listening to Beyond the Breakdown with Six Scars. I am the host, JT, and tonight I am joined by none other than Sean Locke of Razorgrave. My dude,
What's
how are you
up?
doing?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Oh man, oh what you got going on in the background there? Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. That was that's a
What
fun little light show.
what the?
I'm
I didn't
here
know I
for
was
it, man.
tripping.
I'm here for it.
Dude, we were talking right before we went live, and
Mhm.
I was telling you how much I appreciate this. And
No, dude, I appreciate it more than you know. Like I love social events like this, so it does me happy, especially with someone as cool as you. So that's a win.
hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Dude, I'm excited for this, man. So we're just gonna hit the ground running.
Sure.
Um, tell those that don't know who you are, a little bit about yourself, man. Like, what was your early beginnings?
Okay. So obviously my name's Sean. I'm rhythm guitar and vocals for thrash metal band Razorgrave, formerly known as Neverfall. Um, we collectively kind of been doing the band thing now for oh my goodness, it's like 14 years.
Wow.
I didn't start playing guitar until I was maybe like 15 or 16, like my sophomore year in high school, and not too long after that is when I met Drew, our guitar player, and me and him just kind of got together and started playing music together. We were like, we were both kind of like, dorky high schoolers, like towards the end of like it was my senior year when I met Drew. Um, and we had a mutual friend that kind of introduced the two of us, and of course we got together and nerded out about guitar, played a couple Metallica songs, and from there it was like, maybe we should start being a band, because at the time I was playing drums for like a totally different style of music. I was playing like funk, jam band, widespread panic, Fish kind of stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the funny thing is like a lot of people who know me from like high school and from early days actually know me more of it as a drummer than a guitar player and a vocalist. Like that's like I started playing drums. God, I must have been like seven, I want to say 7 or 8 at the time, and I kind of played drums consistently for the last like however many years, and like obviously within like more recent years, living in apartments and all that kind of stuff kind of killed it because I couldn't really play drums anywhere. But when I moved, like when like I had a divorce, and like I went to living in an apartment again, which sucked. But then I started renting this house, and that was kind of my like, hey, I'm gonna get drums again. So I started, playing drums way more. But to take it back to the whole Razorgrave thing, um, we've collectively been playing together for about 13, 14 years, and we've only ever had one member change, which is actually our drummer. Me, Mike, and Drew have kind of consistently stayed the three of us in the picture doing basically the exact same roles. It's just, we've either gotten better better at it, or we've kind of refined our sound a little bit more.
Hell yeah, man. No, it definitely shows too, because like I went through and listened to all your tracks today, and it's like each song there's like significant improvement, if that's even possible, man.
Well, thank you. That's the goal, man. Like, I mean, so we started off like we kind of all had like a general idea of what it was we wanted to do. We wanted to we all wanted to play like metal, obviously, but at the time I was in like a very like I've it's not really a surprise for people that know me all that well, because like I really haven't changed all that much since I was like an early teenager. Like I've consistently listened to like the same music I listen to now, just I was younger. That's it. Um, so I had a pretty solid foundation. Like like I always really like faster thrash metal kind of stuff, and at the time, Drew was kind of dipping his foot into thrash and kind of heavier stuff, and then Mike has always been a punk kid at heart, so we kind of all meshed really well when we first met. And then our old drummer Ethan, super talented drummer. we all kind of meshed and had the same general idea. But it wasn't until I think it was when we first saw, I think all of us caravanned our way up to Charlotte to go watch Death Angel, Testament, and Anthrax. It was all three of them on one bill, and
Oh,
and from that one show, we became obsessed with like all the other thrash metals, and we were like, that's what we want to do. Like we were already like kind of on that way, but it was like it was like the deciding factor of like they are like super tight, they sound aggressive, like they got like the whole image and everything, and that was really what was like we're gonna do that. And that's kind of where we figured out our sound, and you kind of hear that from record to record, because it was like as the world burns, you kind of got like we were figuring our bearings out. um I think it was Blood and Honor was the next one where we were kind of like, okay, we're ironing out some of the kinks, and then the third one, Admit One, that was like songwriting wise, like all we were like really stoked on all those songs, but it was kind of like it's still not where we want it to be. And now with the stuff we've been writing, like to be honest, we've been working on this for since we came out of the pandemic, so since 2021. But like obviously with how many shows we've been doing, and every chaotic event and good event between like then and now, it's kind of held us up, and some of it's our fault, but some of it is kind of like, we want to stay as busy as humanly possible, and us going back and writing a lot of the stuff that we wanted to hear. That's why the newer single, House of the Locust, um it's not really like a lot of our older stuff, in the sense that like everything that we release is, or at least we try to release, is just all cylinders open, like
mm-hmm.
just full tilt. This was the first song that we wrote that was like, I want to say, a mid tempo the entire way through. Like there's not a part where it picks up and it doesn't really like slow. Well, I guess you could say it kind of slows down because it kind of has that like breakdown ish part in the
Mm-hmm.
middle. But generally speaking, it's the only one that we've ever had that's like a mid tempo the whole way through, and that's like a really good. Uh, I mean, just the overall sound of that song is like a really good indicator of like where we are musically. None of it, and I can't give away too much, but like with the stuff that we're going to be releasing in the next, I want to say 6 to 8 months, it's still very much us. Like if you've seen us before live, like there's not a whole lot of deviation. It's just slightly down tuned, slightly darker and more menacing, but generally it's the same thing, just meaner and tighter.
Hell yeah, man. Before it gets lost in the shuffle, shout out to Jacob Hart. He is one of the guitarists for our awesome band Killbait Overdose. He's
Yeah.
a Testament and the horns, and he's a huge Testament fan. So shout out to you,
Oh,
Jake.
that's awesome, man. We huge love for Testament, dude. All the older thrash bands, especially like Testament, Exodus, Death Angel, Overkill, all those guys are massive influences on us.
Hell yeah. I was gonna ask you about that too, man. Like
Yeah.
that kind of led to the next question. Like, what were your influences? Because I hear all the thrash metal bands that you just mentioned,
Oh yeah.
and it, but I also heard, and maybe I'm wrong, but like I also heard tinges of death.
Yes.
Like I'm a
Yes.
huge Death fan, dude. Like I absolutely love uh Death, and I was listening to it and I was like, man, he's got like tinges on his voice of Schuldner. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, that is like amazing. And going back to where you were talking about, the tight sound that you heard at that 3-act concert,
Yeah.
dude, I felt the same watching you guys. Like
Really.
when you kicked off the set, that drum hit your face so freaking hard, and it was just like in your face. And I was like,
We.
this is what I want it to be like for us. And I was just watching you guys, and I was literally mesmerized by you on vocals, dude. Like your longevity and everything up there blew me the fuck away.
Dude, thank you so much. And you guys are awesome, man. It was an awesome time to get to see you guys, actually everyone on that bill. But thank you about my vocal thing. If we're being if we're being honest about my voice, like that is the thing I'm like least confident on out of all the, I guess, musical endeavors that I do. I think my voice is probably the one I'm the least like confident on. I've gotten better to where I'm a little bit more comfortable, more confident, but it's been a work in progress. And I really had to find the sweet spot for me. Um and in terms of like longevity, like a lot of it's just me different like breathing exercises.
Same.
I don't do a whole lot of like actual vocal exercises before we go on stage. Most of it's just breathing, and the actual like scream part of it that comes for me is just like muscle memory. Like when we get up there, like if I hear myself and the monitor's good and like everything's like the right volume, I kind of I don't push too hard, but
Mm-hmm.
I also don't like feel like I'm like barely like pushing air out. Um, and I mean every vocalist, everyone who does like aggressive hard music, like we all learned this lesson early early on. It's like, don't scream from up here, you know, and that's, dude, the first, like, I never okay, so I never wanted to be a vocalist in Neverfall, or well, when we were first starting out as Neverfall. Like I never wanted to do vocals. um our original vocalist Brandon had left, and we couldn't find anyone to fill in the vocal spot. And I was like, well, I've got experience kind of doing some voice stuff, but I'm not like, I don't feel like I'm like the greatest vocalist in the world. And we tried and tried and tried and tried and tried, and we never found anybody. And then I was like, well, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just do it. So I bought the Zen of Screaming from Melissa Cross and learned
Yes.
all those different exercise. Yeah. And like I kind of like I applied them, but it was just hard because, like, your stage nerves and everything get the better of you when you're first starting out. So you're just like, yeah, like all at one time, and you just forget everything that you've been, trying to get a repetition on, or at least I did. So the older I got and the more I did it, the more comfortable I became, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of figuring this out to where I'm not like dead by the end of like the show. But here in the last couple of years, especially with us, and this is another thing. I found it easier for me vocally when we tuned down, because we had played in E flat for the vast majority of our career as a band. Um, and I kind of always felt like I needed to like scream higher, like a higher pitch when we were
Mm-hmm.
playing in E flat than I do now, because we only play in D standard now. Like it's not that much of a drop, but for whatever reason, uh, I don't feel as strained to do vocals in D than I would if I was in E flat or E standard for whatever reason. And I'm like, I am not a vocal professional at all. I just know what works for me. And I like, so when it comes to like vocal influences, Death is up there, Testament, uh, the massive one, and Drew gives me so much shit because the first time when we were first tracking Locust and some of the newer things, uh, Orbit Culture has become like my favorite band. Like,
Really?
oh, I love Orbit Culture. So like every time I hear Nick's voice, I'm always like, I want to do that. Like I felt like the first time I heard, I think it was Strangler or Vultures of North from Orbit Culture, and I was like, that's perfect. So I've been kind of striving to have like that kind of range, and like now, especially like if for me it's like a hearing thing. Like if I hear everything good on the stage and it's the right volume, nothing's overbearing, I feel like I can hit my range without feeling like I'm overexerting. If that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
No, it
So,
it oh, go ahead.
well, all I was gonna say was like, so what you saw was like the mix at the Hideaway for me was like perfect for vocals. Like at like I think it was either Drew or Mike or somebody was like, "Your voice sounds really good tonight," and I was like, "Yes," because
Yeah.
like if I have a bad vocal night, like I always feel like I'm either overshooting or undershooting, and I feel like either nobody can hear me or I'm like overstraining, and then by the end of the show, I'm like I can still talk, but I'm always like, man, I hated how it sounded tonight. Like there's always that little regret afterwards.
Yeah, like no shade to anybody at the Hideaway because we were the new kids on the block, us being KBO, but it was like, man, that our sound was a little rough halfway through the set until it finally like kicked in. We could not hear hardly anything up on the stage.
Oh, dude, that's still like you guys still knocked it out of the park, and like we still run into that too. Like we just like we're kind of so connected as musicians between like me, Mike, Drew, and Ian that like even if we can't hear each other on stage, like we've rehearsed some of those songs into oblivion. So like it's
Yeah.
almost like muscle memory for us. Like when we start playing, it's just like, okay, well, it's gonna suck if we can't hear each other, but like we'll make it work. Like we've had situations where like our amps are basically in front of Ian, so he can't hear us at all. And he's like, he'll even tell us afterwards. He's like, man, I didn't hear you guys at all. It's like, oh god, that's not comforting at all. But 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 then at the same time, it's like, props to you, kid, because you still did it. But like, oh, that makes me nervous every time that happens.
Oh, dude, you killed it. Now I will say I wanted to go back to where you were talking about vocals because
Yeah,
I obviously am a vocalist and I love talking to other vocalists about how they do things.
yeah,
Um, you said that you found it harder to scream in E standard or E flat,
yes.
and I'm over here. I'm like, this son of a bitch can scream in E standard.
Well, okay, so when we first did that, like, okay, now this tells you how unprofessional we were when we first started playing together. Like, we had, and we joke about this all the time. Like, our first show was not really a train wreck, but like we had three guitar changes where we played in like drop C, we played in E flat, we played in E standard, and at the time I wasn't even doing vocals. Like, we were just playing music. But when we really first started playing our first few shows, if I remember correctly, everything that we had was in E standard. It wasn't until like 2013 or 14 is when we first went to E flat. But like with us doing E standard stuff, like I always kind of felt like not necessarily like it was out of my range, but like I definitely felt like my voice was like a little too low for what we were doing. So I wasn't not necessarily nailing like every note in E standard, but like there were times where I'm like, it sounds like a little off. And it used to drive me nuts for a while. So that was why we tuned to E flat, because I had an easier time, doing vocals then. And I was like, it still didn't feel 100% right. Now that we're in D standard, it feels a lot more right. But like, I will tell you that when I was learning to scream, I was like overshooting it in E standard, which is a lot of why like our first few shows where I was really doing vocals, maybe like the first year or two, I would come off stage and I would literally just have no voice. Like I could talk the next day, but like the day of, like, and after we got off stage, like everyone would be trying to talk to me. I'm like, I can't talk. And I wasn't old enough to drink yet. So I was like, I don't have anything to kind of like soothe my throat. So all I got is water and Powerade.
Dude, I can't tell you how many times I've done that at practice just from
Yeah.
going too hard. And
Yeah.
you're just like, you wake up that next morning and you're like, you feel like there's just bees in your throat. And
Oh
all you
yeah.
want to do is take hot tea and just like drench yourself in
Yep.
it.
That was my next trick was a friend of mine, his name's DJ Griffin. He plays in another band, and he was, I can't remember what his band was in when I first met him. But and I have a horrible memory. But like he got me green tea, and then subsequent years after that, I had become obsessed with like hot peppermint tea.
Yeah.
So like towards like the middle of my career, that was when I was like, I need I need constant hot peppermint tea to just kind of relax my throat. And the older I got and the more trained I got, the less I was like, I don't need this. I don't need as much hot tea anymore because I learned how to breathe without like feeling I was gonna die afterwards. And especially like, being in the tuning that we were in, like I don't overstrain anymore. I don't like overshoot it or anything.
Dude, that says a lot for your like vocal dexterity and also your growth
Yeah.
to be able to have that muscle memory,
Yeah.
Will Brawley up in the house from Liars Pacifist podcast. How you doing, Sean? You're awesome, my friend.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Will is
Good to
he's
hear
a
from you.
good friend.
Nice.
So
I saw the message pop up. I was like, wait a minute, who's talking to me right now?
Will has never met a stranger, and I'll recommend his podcast to you as well, the Liars Pacifist podcast. It's a great one.
Wait, okay.
You definitely hit him up, Will.
Okay.
So what I want to start asking you about is
Yes.
I kind of feel cheated because I don't think on YouTube it had the first 2 albums from you guys.
No.
So I think I only actually got to listen to Admit One.
Okay. Well, well, if we're gonna go by that merit, like you're not missing much if you go on YouTube and you listen to Admit One versus the other two. Like I kind of like I said earlier, like like the first two we were still kind of figuring out our footing, and we never felt like they're not bad records per se, but for us, like we never felt like those were like good representations of who we are like as a band. So when we dropped Admit One, that felt more like us, like but it, and I'll tell you the big thing for us. So one of the things that's kind of always tripped us up was like having a good representation of like how we sound live versus how we sound on the record. So if you ever go listen to those first 3 records and then you come see us live, it's like a totally different thing. And that was always a frustrating thing because like it was there's no shade on like our friend Jason that recorded this stuff, like none at all, because he knows he's an absolute wizard when it comes to recording. But it was hard to kind of capture the live essence of like how we sound, because like live, I always feel like between my amp, Drew's amp, Mike's, and then especially with the way that Ian plays, everything meshes really well live, and it was just really hard to capture it. And now that we're doing the newer stuff, it's a lot closer to how we sound live than the last couple records. Admit One was in the right vein, but like Blood and Honor and As the World Burns, it was kind of like we're figuring it out, but there's still a lot of key components that we're missing. We don't typically play anything from As the World Burns anymore. Periodically, we might play some stuff from Blood and Honor, which was like I think we play like Under Fire. We'll play One in the Chamber. Here and there, like at rehearsal, we've kind of messed around with playing Carnage Rising and Firing Squad, but typically with a lot of the stuff we've been playing, like that stuff's kind of slowly been getting phased out. Not because it's bad, it's just that like it doesn't jive with like how we sound and like the more recent music we've put out. So that's why like on YouTube and like some of the other streaming sites, like you don't really see that stuff anymore, just because it just like it sounds like the best way I can kind of describe it is like we kind of outgrew that part, and it was kind of like, yeah, well, I don't want to take it down, but at the same time I was like, that hearing As the World Burns versus like House of the Locust, like the most recent single, it's like night and day. Like you can tell it's still us, but like I will talk the absolute most about House of the Locust in comparison to the other 3, I guess.
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, also, don't feel bad about kind of departing from that because, I mean, look at Pantera. They started as a glam metal. I mean, and then, became literally one of the most dominant, pun intended there, metal
Yeah,
bands in the world, I
yeah,
mean, you never know.
yeah,
But I mean, I feel like as artists, we all have those growing pains, where
yes.
it's like we look back at some of our earlier works and it's like, oh, some of that's really cool. And then others, it's like, oof.
Yeah, you just like are like, oh god, I want to forget it. So that's kind of why, like, so Drew kind of does a lot of the social media, like uploading and streaming stuff, and like when there's been stuff either coming down or like when we've like uploaded other stuff or taken stuff down, like I'll go back, like it might pop up on like my iPod or like my phone or something, and like it'll be like the first drafts of like As the World Burns, and I'm like, I am glad we don't play that anymore. Because it's like it's not bad, but it's not great either. Like a lot of the people who have known us in the scene for a while will be like, oh, but that's like our memory of you, and I'm like, yeah, but like it hurts hearing it recorded sometimes. Like the
Dude,
show's
yeah.
different. The show's different, but like hearing it, uh, hearing it on like the recordings, especially some of the older ones that we've got that I still have. Like I'm like, oh god, I'm so glad we don't do that anymore.
You're just like turning red in the face while listening to it because you're like, I'm so glad I don't sound like this anymore.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like I'll listen to it, I'm like, oh my god, I released that. Oh,
Well,
and then I'll go listen to like House of the Locust, and I'm like, all right, cool, we're still good.
yeah, dude, like I'm trying to save House of the Locust, but dude, it's such a good single.
Thank
Like
you, thank you.
I listened to it about 4 or 5 times today, and like you said, it's a departure,
Yeah,
from everything that you've done. Like you said, it's a little bit more mid-tempo, but it has this still just like sludgy kind of in your face
yeah.
vibe about it. And when I first heard it, man, I actually got like for the first time hearing you, I got glimpses of Machine Head in your vocals.
Oh yeah, yeah. Listen, okay. So if we're going to talk about Locust and just well, I mean, we'll bring up like influences and like we'll talk more about like I guess my influences because like when we wrote Locust, I've always been like a really big Machine Head fan.
Hell
Um,
yeah, dude.
I love the Blackening. I love Burn My Eyes. Um, I when the Blackening came out, I remember hearing Unleash. I think it's Wolves. That's still like one of my favorite Machine Head songs like ever. Um, but I always had like a soft spot for Machine Head and just the way that they sound and like I mean they got some songs where they're like 8-minute epics, but then the last couple albums that I really liked, like Bloodstone Diamonds. Um, what was the one that came after the Blackening? I can't remember.
Let me look that one up real quick.
I think it's like Unto the Locust, actually.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. So, oh, it's ironic. Well, but like those last couple albums, like I loved how they sounded. I loved how heavy they were, and like I wanted something that was a little bit more on the groovy side because we didn't have in our catalog, in all of our catalog of music of all the stuff that we play, um, there's not a whole lot of mid-tempo stuff. Early on before we like even recorded anything, I think we had some that was like slower tempo, but it was not consistently just like a nice driving tempo, like House of the Locust is. And so a lot of my more recent influences when I've been writing this stuff, obviously like Machine Head, Death Angel, Orbit Culture. A huge influence has always been a huge Metallica, Megadeth, and Slayer fan.
I was gonna say.
Always like those are like those were my first three loves when it came to just aggressive, fast thrash metal. was Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and in that order. And as I got older, I found Testament and Death Angel, who were kind of always one I love like their groove and feel, but
Mhm.
I wasn't necessarily as like dead into them as I was the first three. Um, as I got older, then Machine Head, Lamb of God, and then when Death Angel had like a resurgence back in like 2009, I want to say, um, that's really where I started listening to a lot of that more. And then here recently, I'd say in the last 10 years, like bands that I absolutely love, that are ones that I didn't really necessarily learn early on. Obviously, Orbit Culture. One of my favorite bands, and they just started playing out again. Mammoth Grinder.
Mm.
I love Mammoth Grinder. I love their albums, Underworlds, Cosmic Crypt, all those. They're like that was kind of like what I wanted, just aggressive, just punch you in the face kind of like metal.
Okay.
I didn't necessarily wanted like I didn't want like full like death metal, but I was like I could get down with that. So I kind of like made like a melting pot of like all the bands I got, like what I love about like Metallica, Megadeth, and Slayer, and Death Angel, and Testament, like all those thrash elements. And then I was like, okay, now let's find a way to like loop in Orbit Culture, Mammoth Grinder, Machine Head, Trivium.
I was gonna say, is there some
Even as
trivia?
I lay dying. You said what?
Is there some trivium in there? I was waiting
Oh
for
yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah.
it.
As far as like formative guitar albums, um, the Crusade and Shogun came out. I think around the time I was in high school, and
Yeah.
I couldn't play them for shit when I was younger. I can play some of that stuff now. I haven't learned a lot of it in a long time. I also don't have a 7 string, so most of Shogun's out. But like those albums, like the riffs on them, the writing on them, and I was like Matt's voice was like another thing that I was like I kind of want to sound like that.
Hell yeah.
So a lot of early Trivium, I was like I got a reference point. Nice.
Well,
So
Will Brawley came in with a long, good comment for House of the Locust. He says, "For me, I
okay.
really dig the tone and atmosphere, the mix of the newest song. It's kind of like this callback to earlier heavy metal, but sounding fresh and revitalized from a creative sense. I was listening and I got reminded of the early days of Machine Head, and there's Testament and some Slayer nods. Killer."
Yeah, that's what I want to hear, man. That's what I want to hear. So I'm trying to remember when I wrote Locust because um I think we had come back from like a few day run or something, and I was like, I want to say it was one of the last times we were in like Alabama or something, and like we had, dude, it was like a string of bad incidences when we were there. Like the place that we were staying was like 40 minutes from civilization. When I say 40 minutes from civilization, like we're talking like no cell reception. It's in the woods. It takes you like 45 minutes on a dirt road that you can't go anything above 20 miles an hour.
Oh,
So this happens, and we're in my truck, which I drive a 2014 Ram 1500, and it's a big truck, and we're pulling trailer, and then we pull onto this gravel dirt road, and I'm like, I just kind of like sink in my chair, and Drew and Mike are like, what? And I'm like, how far is this rickety ass road that we're gonna take this trailer? And we're looking at it, and it's like 40 minutes to destination. I was like, you got to be shitting me. But so we drove it, and like that was the start of the problems. And then like the first day of tour, all the bands dropped at the very first venue, which sucked. So it was like us and a handful of like last minute bands, and like nobody had time to promote it. So it was really just like us, the other bands, and like a few like random people. The second show we played at, I forget where in Alabama, but I think it was called the Sanctuary. Um, that was a really cool venue, really good turnout. Not a whole lot of people that were really like they dug us, but like not a whole lot of like crowd movement. So I was like, all right, well, there's people hanging out, so that's good. But then the night afterwards, like it was we kept hearing like a weird sound from my truck. So I was like, oh God. And that night, I remember my truck like bottomed out because there was some like really bad storm and it kind of screwed the gravel road up, and then that made it definitely hard to drive back to where it was. It's like 3 a.m. We had to like backtrack on this 1-lane dirt road. We had to unhook the trailer. All 4 of us just like hook this thing, unhook it, hold it up, move it, and then I had to drive my truck backwards, like almost like a half a mile, turn around, drive backwards another half a mile, go back and get the trailer, and then go back to where we were staying. So that, just to give you context of like of the whole House of the Locust thing. But after we had finally got home, like I remember, like I think I was still working at my old job, and I had nothing but vacation time to burn. So I remember taking like a day or 2 off to kind of decompress. And I got home, and we figured out what it was that was wrong with my truck. Like that's a whole other story. But long story short, the rear differential had gone bad from the previous owner, and obviously being on the road in the conditions that we were in did not help at all. And then so we came home, and everyone was kind of pissed off at each other the last night of tour because it was like it was a rough couple days. And then like I got home, and I remember like I slept in, and I got up, and I kind of was like looking at my rig, and I was just mad. Like not really mad at anybody. I was just like, we had a shitty couple days. Like it was hot, it was miserable, no cell reception, and we fucked up my truck, and I bent my step rail, and like it was I was not happy about it. And then I remember picking up like I remember what guitar it was. I think it was one of my BC Riches, and like I just was like just digging into my amp, just playing just this like E. It was like the open chord to like the F, so it was like the first fret. It was like duh, 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 duh. And then I went up to the higher duh, 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 and I was just like, that's kind of a cool riff. Hold on. So then I found like a good tempo. I think it was around like 150, and I found like a drum loop on YouTube, and I just remember like playing that stupid loop for like a good hour, just playing the same riff, the da 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 da, and then where it drops to the lower chord. I'm like, that's kind of a cool thing because we don't have anything like that. And then that's when we kind of decided to change to playing in D standard too. But when I wrote Locust, it was a nice it was a good way to turn like a negative into a positive, because at the time like there was a whole fiasco of my truck getting fixed, obviously the fiasco of being on tour, but then like this really sick song idea came out, and I was like, okay, because usually when I go to write something, I kind of have it in my head, like at least what I want to hear, and I'll go like maybe I'll go find a drum loop, or I'll go play like a short 15-30 second thing on drums, and just I'll hit like a voice note on my phone and just like play it real quick, and then like stop, and then play it through my speakers, and then start writing a guitar riff through it, and then like I'll come up with a fleshed out skeleton to the other 3, and then we'll kind of like build it up from there. But with Locust, like I kind of had the vast majority of it figured out before I brought it to the 3 of them, because I was like, again, I was so pissed off about that whole scenario that like that whole song kind of just like fell out of me when I was like playing. I'm like, okay, mood improved, we're good.
It's crazy how that's sometimes like the best stuff, right? When you're like most pissed off, and you can write a song in 15-20 minutes, and sometimes it can be the absolute worst, and other times it's the best that you've ever written.
Yeah. it's so weird how that works out, because then like you can't be mad though, like afterwards. Like afterwards when I was like playing that riff, I kind of like sat down and I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And I couldn't be mad, and then I was like, wait, mood improved. So I remember texting Drew, and I was like, dude, I have a sick idea. And of course, like the way that we've always kind of bounced songs back and forth as we've gotten older was like we'll record like a voice memo or like a video or something with it, and then we'll send it back and forth and be like, okay, at rehearsal we'll tweak it, and then we'll bail on rehearsal, and then like a week or two later, and then we'll forget the riff, and then be like, oh shit, this sucks. And then we'll remember it, and then go back through the whole spiel. But that's kind of how Locust came to be.
Hell yeah. Will says, or how you're so pissed off that somehow you write a happy song. You're just like, no, I'm pissed though.
Yeah, it's bullshit. That you'll be like writing like that's another song. Damn, I want to talk about that one. It's not recorded yet, but it's a similar thing. Like I had a shit day at work, and then like I wrote this riff, and I was like, I need to go record it. So, and the way that it came out was like, it's not a dark, brooding, almost like borderline death thrash song. Like it's like kind of more like upbeat Megadeth almost. And I was like,
oh,
like yeah, like at the time I remember like feeling like I was like, you motherfucker, like from work, and then like I got home and I wrote this riff, and I was just like, what the fuck?
So, dude, I could sit here and talk to you about House of the Locust literally forever because I am having an absolute blast. But there are some other songs I really want to dig into.
Sure.
The first one being One in the Chamber.
Yes.
Dude, what was the writing process and the mindset behind that one?
So when musically, from like a music standpoint, when I wrote that, like I think me, Drew, and Mike had kind of spitballed a couple of the bridge and like chorus ideas back and forth. But I remember when I wrote that song, we didn't have anything that kind of had like where it was just strictly drums and vocals. And I really liked how like a couple songs like Lionheart has one that's kind of like it. There's a couple. I want to say there's a couple of Overkill songs and some of the older Megadeth songs that kind of have where it's just drums and just guitar, or sorry, just drums and like vocals. And I really like that feel. And I was like, when everybody comes back in, it's just like this big like boom. And live, it always kind of sounded really cool because you're in our set, it's just like there's not a whole lot of like breaks or anything or like clean parts or like interludes. It's just like somebody turned the faucet on, and then we're just like the whole time.
Yeah.
So when One in the Chamber was written, that was kind of one I was like, I want to have like a part where it's like really not really slow in the bridge, but like a little more low key. And then during the first verse is where it's just like there's nothing but vocals and drums, because I always like that dynamic. Lyrically, when I wrote One in the Chamber, I'm trying to remember what was on my mind when I wrote it, but I think it was just like I initially wrote it about just like I want to say like someone's like split decision between like you could be either the most violent person or not. Hence, like one of the lines in the chorus is one click away.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you could like you can't uncall a bullet, and the way that I had wrote it was like you're teetering on something that's so simple. It's so small. Like when you look at the grand scheme of things, like if you split open a gun and you just look at like the clicking of the trigger, that's not a big thing, but that has monumental consequences afterwards, which is kind of why I like wrote it, where it's like you can be like, one of the first lines is eye for an eye, blood for blood, let it rip. And it's like you can live with that mentality of eye for an eye, or you can be like eye for an eye makes the world blind.
Yeah.
And I kind of like teetered back and forth on it. Like I always try to be a little more clever with my lyrics. They don't always pan out that way. Like there's some stuff that's like it's not about anything. I just like wrote it just because. But then like songs like One in the Chamber, like I forget what caused me to write specifically about that, but I remember like the general context of why I wrote it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But when everything kind of came together, I was like, okay. And that was one of the songs like off of Blood and Honor that I was like, I'm okay playing this one live because it's like it fits really well in our set list, both now, then, and like maybe even in like in the future it could be used as well. But just as a general context thing, that was a lot of how and why we wrote it the way that we did.
Okay. So I think I have One in the Chamber and then Under Fire. So both of those are off of Blood and Honor, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Dude, I absolutely loved your vocals on One in the Chamber, but I truly wanted to ask you about Under Fire because I was looking at the comment section on that video and I was
Yeah.
like, so, like, do you know anything about the comment section with the Reddit story? And like, so they were saying that the song was written about one of the bandmates' mothers saying you all were satanic.
Oh no. That it was not written about that. And as far as the comment section and all that stuff is and Reddit's concerned, like, dude, that's news to me. Like I've never even seen never
Oh,
seen.
seriously, dude?
Yeah, dude, I'm doing good to keep up with like my comment section on like my pages. Or anything. So like when it comes to like the band ones, like occasionally like I'll see some stuff, but then like I'm awful when it comes to keeping up on like YouTube or like any of the other comments. But like, okay, so Under Fire, I honestly like it was so long ago in terms of like the music part of it. Like
Mhm.
I remember bits and pieces of it because I think I was between working at my first like the job I was at for like the last 8 years. So this must have been 2015, I want to say. Where I was in between, like I had just left my job at the mall. Like I think I was working at like Journeys or Buckle or something. And I was off for like a month, and my girlfriend at the time she's working like nonstop, and I was kind of living off of like my savings that I had created, but because I wanted to like just decompress from working retail, because for all that time I was in retail, I never had a break. So I remember constantly being obsessed with like at the time, and I've always been like a big Static X person.
Yes, dude.
But they have like Wayne always had this like I don't even know what you would call it. It's like if you did all three fingers on like a fret, it's like if you did like 1 on A, 2 on D, and then 3 on the G, like on frets, like on those 3 strings, and it kind of sounds really dissonant. That chord was what started Under Fire, and I was like, I like that chord. That's a cool chord. So then I kind of built it around that, and I was like, I really wanted like a really like jumpy kind of like thrash sounding song, and obviously what we wrote ended up coming out. Static X is one of my absolute favorite bands. Yes, as one of mine too. So when it comes to like the lyrical content, let's see. I'm trying to remember Under Fire, because when we're talking about like lyrical content, I think it was like I had just written about like constantly coming into combat with people and words, and just like how you like one of the lines is hissing lies from your twisted tongue.
It's such a sick line, dude.
Thank you. And it's the line after that is, you thrive on the pain of others, which when I say like when we talk about Under Fire, the original context of it was like it was about constantly being under fire from people, like in a literal sense. It's like you could walk out your door and be verbally attacked through, whether it's through ironically like the comment section, people on the street, wherever. But sometimes like with the way our society is now, is like you get kind of targeted a lot, whether it's intentional or not. And then like trying to tie it all in together. But the funny thing is, when we recorded that, during the bridge, there's a line where it's, "This is my boomstick," right? And that's from it was
Army
kind
of
of
Darkness?
yeah. our producer at the time, Ben, was like we didn't have any lines there, and he was like, he goes, that would be perfect for this song. And then originally, there is a draft of it somewhere where it has the sample from Army of Darkness in it, and then it comes
Really?
back. Yeah, yeah. But it was like it was a good way to be like, verbally, like, I guess your mouth would be used as like a boomstick where it's just like you can say things, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Will said it's a relevant song to how society talks to and treats each other these days. He thinks COVID was like the catalyst to set all the folks off.
yeah. And again, we wrote Under Fire several years, like, again, 2015, I want to say, and with the mindset that I had at the time, I was just kind of like I was just spitballing different ideas of like how people approach each other and interface with each other, and I was just like, there's such a hostility among people sometimes, whether it's intentional or not. Like, some people just don't, like, they don't know any better.
Yeah.
So they'll say stuff like to them is like, whatever, but to another person that's like whirlwinding. And you can say it's like, people are too fragile or not, but at the same time it's like, well, you also don't know what that person's going through that day or what it is. And that's a lot of, like, when I wrote that song, I was like, you could say something to somebody the wrong way. And especially, like, now that I think about it, it makes more sense of why I wrote it that way. Because when I was working at the mall, and this is a huge reason why I'll never, ever, ever, ever work retail again, is you get stuck having to put this facade on all the time. And, you can say the same about people in the service industry too. But, like, sometimes you just get shit on by people all day because they have a gripe about whatever it is. Like, when I was working at Journeys, if somebody wore shoes, you were not supposed to take them back because obviously, they've been worn, so you can't sell used shoes like that. And people would get butthurt about it because I would tell them, like, hey, like, we can't take these back. And then that was like their thing, like that day, where it's like, I just want to, like, jump at you over it because you won't take the shoes back. Let's see. I don't want to make this episode about another. Like, folks are treating. Yeah, the thing with Linkin Park, and, like, I haven't watched it enough to really know 1,000%, but I do know, like, kind of the gist of, like, the whole Emily situation. But, like, I kind of have, like, a couple opinions about it just from what I know. And like, we won't stay on it too long, but, like, I do think that, like, if you were gonna go about carrying Chester's legacy, I think maybe not necessarily throw in the towel completely and give up, but, like, maybe if you were gonna do that, like, find a different way to maybe honor Chester. But again, like, I don't know a ton about that scenario to really say a ton of it.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna go back to, like, the Under Fire portion of it, like, that was a big thing. Is you don't know the type of day that person's having. There were days where, like, it seemed like I was getting, like, verbally attacked by, like, customers sometimes, like, all day, every day. And there's not really anything you can do because you just have to smile and just be like, hey, we'll take them back. And it just sucks because you're like, what you really want to do is be like, no, fuck you, dude. Like, you wore these, you bought them last night, you wore them, we can't take them back.
Yeah.
Whether that's a shirt, whether that's whatever. And sometimes people do that at the service industry too, and, like, I've never understood that about people. So when I wrote Under Fire, lyrically, that was a lot of, like, what kind of motivated it.
Hell yeah. No, dude, I completely understand where you're coming from with the service industry and retail, because I did both of those from the ages of 17 to 30. And I'm 34.
No.
So it's like, dude, I did gas station work for 10 years on and off, and it was some of the best times and some of the absolute worst times. Because, like you said, the entitlement that people show, dude, it's terrible. It's absolutely abysmal, man. It makes you, like, question a lot of things about society.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's awful because, like, and here's a lot of what, like, okay, so there's still like bits and pieces I remember about Blood and Honor. And in terms of like that whole album, like a lot of it was I didn't necessarily agree with, like, and I still don't to a degree, because I think a lot of like the corporatization of like a certain like establishments, like I don't agree with. Meaning, like, if you've got X amount of employees and you constantly treat them like a number, then you constantly have like terrible turnover rates, and people like they don't want to stay, they don't want to put extra effort in, they don't want to do this and don't want to do this, and then like a lot of the people in the upper echelon of like I guess the corporate part of it are they're just like, oh, we'll find more people. It's like, well, no one's gonna come in if you have nobody to do that with, and they don't care because they're trying to just they're getting their bill
Yeah.
at the end of the day. So for me, like a lot of it was just fueled by like I had this like big resentment because even in some of these emails they would be like, our policies, we don't take them back, but we do want everybody to be satisfied. And I was like, well, at what extent do we stand up for ourselves and stop getting like destroyed day in day out from like customers or whoever? Because if that's the case, then we shouldn't even have like a return policy to begin with. If they bring it back, just like, all right, cool, just return it. But if you're telling us like, hey, we don't, here's what we accept for returns and here's what we don't, and then you suddenly are just like, oh well, take them back anyway. It's like, what are we doing?
Yep. Yeah, you're violating your own policy just to accommodate one person.
Yeah.
Dude, I get it because like now I work in a hotel chain, and I mean for the most part I love it, but dude, like the people they will complain about the smallest thing and expect every single accommodation to come their way. Yeah. And they'll like, a lot of hotels have, memberships, like, the higher the membership, the more perks. Yeah. We'll get ones that aren't members at all, and they want to be treated like the highest member that we have. And it's like, dude, we can't do that.
Yeah. Like, you don't understand, dude. That's why like, okay, so I left my retail years and I went to work for a warehouse, and for a lot of the years that I was at the last warehouse, it was great, and then towards like the last year or so of me being there is where it really went downhill. And then doing what I do now, like I still stay in like the warehousing world, but like I love my job that I'm in right now. It is like I have nothing but praise to talk about the place that I work now. Like everybody's super nice, everybody's really cool. It's such a more positive environment. Like there are like on one hand, I think I can count the number of times I've actually been like mad at work, and it's not really even mad. It's more just like irritated because like a truck driver will show up like at the last like 10 minutes of me being there. I'm like, dude, but generally speaking, like I love where I work, man. Like everyone's super cool. My supervisor's awesome. Everybody that is in management's really cool. My other warehouse workers really cool. Like I'm a happy dude. That's why like I don't come home angry and like ready to just like write like just belligerent angry riffs anymore. It's like I still can, but about different things and not necessarily much about work.
Without saying where you work or anything, do you do like processing and shipping in the back of the warehouse or?
So we kind of just like I'm trying to think the best way to describe it in terms of like easy. Like it's just like stuff comes in and we go pick it, or we crate it, box it up, and send it out, and that's about it, dude.
Okay. So, I work for Walmart, so I get it.
Yeah, this is like the last warehouse job that I was in. It was constantly about like your productivity throughout the day, hour by hour, and how many can you do per week, and and like it doesn't do very much for your mental health, because it's like, dude, you're all cylinders open trying to produce or do this, and sometimes you just can't because there's like the work's not there, there's a hiccup in the system or whatever it is, and whoever's above you a lot of times they don't care, and you're just like, dude, if there's nothing for me to pick, like of course my productivity is going to be down. Like, what do you want? And so for me, like towards the end, I was just like, I can't keep up with you guys. So like, not necessarily from like a picking standpoint, because I was in management and I did a lot of like quality and inventory control. And for me, it just was like there's always a problem. There's always something that would pop up, and you're just like you try to explain it to people, and like I understand both sides of the spectrum. It's like, don't come to somebody with just a problem, like come to them with a solution, like, but like sometimes there's stuff that's like it is way out of your control. Way out of your control, and then you're just like, man, like I'm giving you a reason, not an excuse, a reason. Like this is like, if your forklift's down, I mean, are you a trained professional to like get underneath the thing and work on it, or are you just like, hey, your machinery is bad, please fix it?
Yeah, dude. Like, real quick, also, we just passed the 1 hour mark. How are you feeling, man? You doing okay?
Oh yeah, dude, I'm
All right,
good.
man. I always like to ask because I like I'll talk people's heads off if they let me. So I mean,
Oh no, dude, we're great, man. We are good.
hell
I'm
yeah,
I'm
man.
I'm totally fine. I got my water over here. My dog's chilling at my feet. My cat is somewhere, so I'm good, man.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, real quick to go back to what you just said, man. I used to be what was called IMS for Walmart. So we were truck unloaders, but
Yeah,
also like stagers and stalkers.
yeah,
So like we had to do picks every single day. We had to restage it, and then we had to bin it, and then we had to stock it. And there were times, dude, we would get yelled at for like the shift beforehand,
yeah.
moving all of our picks and everything that were for the audit for the morning. And it's like, bro, we're like, what are we supposed to do?
You're like, dude, I'm not responsible for these assholes that came before. Like, take it up with them, dude. Take it up
Yeah,
with their supervisors, man, not me.
yeah, for real. uh Dude, this is a blast, man. Like this is I
Oh, I
always,
love it, man. I love talking.
I do too, man, especially when it's good conversation and it just
Yeah,
flows. So the next song I want to ask you about, and
yeah,
also, if you don't remember or you can't recall anything about them, dude, that is perfectly fine. Because, like you
yeah.
said, this was like 2015.
Yeah, this is like almost 10 years ago. So some
So,
of it I might be like, oh shit, what did we write about? But then other things I'll be like it'll click really quickly. Like if I start remembering a little bit more around that time, like usually it'll come back to me like what I was thinking. But if there's some stuff that like I'm like, I got nothing. I'll let you know, I'll be like, I can't remember.
you'll be like Johnny Depp's lawyer. I don't recall.
I don't recall.
Oh no, I didn't mean to take it there. But okay, so real quick before I do ask you about the
Yeah.
next song, what is it like looking back at your last album? What, 10 years in? Like, dude, that's got to
Oh.
be. I mean, no wonder there's been so much personal growth, right?
Well, I mean, so here's the thing that kind of like always, I guess, like I play with this in my head a lot. I look at like, and like I have weird date stamps. Like I don't know if you do this, yourself, but like, so I'll have like certain life events or like moments in my life. I'm like, okay, well this happened this time, so like then I have like kind of like a line of progress from since then. So
Mhm.
when I graduated high school, um, I graduated in 2010.
Okay.
Um, and I'm 33 right now. But like at the time, like I didn't when me and Drew met, when me, Drew, Mike, and then Ethan met, our old drummer, I honestly wasn't sure how long we would be playing together as a band because I was kind of like, this is fun, but like I might be going to college soon. And like I remember I had sent uh like I think we had sent a couple feelers out to like College of Charleston, Musicians Institute, like a couple different music colleges, and of course, like not like all the colleges I wanted to go to for music at the time. Like if I remember it correctly, they didn't have like on campus living, so you had to go find an apartment and a job. And of course, all these major schools I wanted to go to were like in the most expensive cities, like Boston, L.A., Atlanta, and I was like, I'm fucking poor, dude. Like I can't afford that shit working on like Hot Topic salary. And I remember like so when you look back at like our last 10 year like 14 years as a band, well, I'd probably classify it closer to like we really kind of started doing the thing in like 2011, 2012. So maybe like 12 years. But you look at like all the progress that we've done since then, and like we've done a lot of really cool things in the last couple of years in terms of like recording and whatnot. Like I'll be 1,000% honest. Like when it comes to recording and promotion stuff like that, like historically in the past we haven't been good about like consistent consecutive releases. So it's kind of like each record you hear, it's like there's a significant jump, and it's because like from a literal sense there is like a long jump between records sometimes. I mean, to kind of put it in comparison, like, so the first full album we did was Blood and Honor, not an EP, not like 4 or 5 songs. Like Blood and Honor I think was like 10 or 12 songs, and that came out, I want to say like 2016 or 17. And I remember after that, like our next time that we recorded and actually had anything come out was Admit One, which we didn't even release Admit One until like middle of the pandemic. So that would have been 2020. And when you look at like the progression between all those albums, all those releases, it's a pretty substantial change, not only from like a songwriting part, but like we collectively as a unit got tighter. It was like, okay, we're consistently pushing each other, because like our current drummer Ian came into the picture, and he was like a kid. Like his like second or third show with us, we played in Asheville and we opened for Iron Reagan. So it was like we played at the Mothlight and we were direct support for Iron Reagan, and that was like his third show. So like,
damn, dude.
Yeah, he had to grow up really quick, and he's like, he's the same age as my sister, and he's 23. He's 23 now, and like when he joined the band, he was like 18 or 19 at the time, and so he had like a trial by fire. Like when he came in, like we were playing like these bigger shows, like, you know, not really giant festivals, but we were playing like some pretty stacked lineup bills, and it was like we would, you know, fuck with it. We'd like, you better be on your shit. And then like, you know, of course, like we've all had kind of hiccups on stage, and then when he had them, we would be like, turn around, look at him, like, you motherfucker. Yeah. So it was kind of like it wasn't quite the like, you know, magnitude of like, you know, Hetfield and Lars Hayes and Newstead, but we were definitely like, you better not fuck up. But like, so we kind of forced each other to play tighter. So as we got tighter, the older we got, the more our writing evolved, the more our sound evolved. Like me and Drew we've always been gearheads when it comes to like our amps and stuff. Like my rig really hasn't changed all that much since we started playing out. Like I've had the same Diamond Nitrox amp head since like 2016. I've had 2 different ones. The first one I got in 2011. And the second one that I still have is the one I've been using since 2015 or 16. Like when it comes to amp heads, like I don't, like if I find something that works, I keep it and it doesn't change. Same thing with BC Ridge guitars. Like I love them so much, it's literally tattooed on my forearm.
Hell yeah.
But like, and there's more significance to that later. But we're gear nerds. So as our sound progressed, as we got tighter as musicians, our writing tastes, our writing chops, our stage performance, all of that kind of got better and better as the years go on. And even though there's not as many releases during that time frame, we were always pushing each other to like, you know, more every time. Just like you like get tighter, get more aggressive, more complex. I don't know, so gotta ask. I see a drum set. You also drum? Yes. The drums behind me. That's my Mapex Saturn. That's my Mapex Saturn kit. It's my baby. I love it. I've always wanted it, and now since I don't play drums for any band, like there it is. So,
dude.
I love it.
Not to bounce too much around topics, but where Will was talking about the drums, dude. I saw the video you posted where the bird is the word, but metal.
Yeah, dude. Oh, dude, I have like okay, so since I don't play drums with like anybody, like I have a little bit more freedom to kind of do whatever. And sometimes like okay, I still have an iPod Touch, and like sometimes I'll just put it on shuffle, and I'll just like whatever comes on, like I'm gonna play. If obviously if like it's ridiculous like death metal like revocation or something like that, like and I can't like it's like I haven't been playing like consistently in the last couple of years, so my chops have kind of slowly gotten like less utilized, and now they're coming back, so I can kind of do more of that. But like certain songs will come on, and when Surfing Bird came on, I was like I was playing it just kind of as like a joke, and I was like, wait a minute, this could be cool as shit if I like made it like thrashmetal. So like as a joke, I like set my phone up and I was like record, and I was like, let's see what happens when I play. So I started playing it, and I was like, I like this. This is fun.
Dude, I saw that video and I sat there and watched it like 5 times, laughing the entire freaking
Nice,
time. I was just like, "This is beautiful."
nice.
um, so the next song I do want to ask you about,
Yeah.
though, "Nailed Shut,"
Yes.
dude. That is like, I'm not gonna lie, that's probably one of my favorite songs off of the album.
Oh hell yeah.
I just love the chorus, dude. It's so in your face and violent.
Yeah.
What, if anything, do you remember about kind of the process of that one?
So Nailed Shut is most of that is actually that's actually Drew's baby.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so if you look at Admit One, um I'm trying to remember the track listing. I think it's Admit One, Nailed Shut, Feast for the Rats, Blood Soaked Stone, and Headhunter.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like 5 songs. Um Feast for the Rats and Nailed Shut were ones that Drew had really done the vast majority of the skeleton and fleshing out. So when he came to, me and Mike, like he already had a lot of that song worked out. And Nailed Shut, he starts it, and most of that, I'm trying to remember the vast majority of that song. I'm really sure that he came up with most, if not all of it. Um, I know he came up with the chorus, and I kind of came up with like the cadence for like the verses and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he was the one that like he had the chorus hook. He had the vast majority of the music ready to go. So when he came to me, like when he came to us, like we were like, "Damn, this is easy." Like, nice. So then we just kind of like adjusted like maybe some transitions and like fills and whatnot. And that's one of his songs where it's just like it's almost entirely his song.
Okay. Okay.
Which
Fair enough.
which I was so stoked on because like um he's Drew's really grown in terms of his songwriting because it's like he's become more confident. So between Admit One and now the next release, which it doesn't have a name yet, but like the next like record, there's a lot more contributions from like him and Mike, which is great because it kind of showcases like what all of us can do and like how we all kind of mesh together really well.
Hell yeah.
Um, so with Nailed Shut, like again, that was most of it was his work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, to take it back to the present, do you
Mhm.
all share obviously like songwriting duties, but do you share lyric writing as well?
Yeah, I really don't like being like a closed door in terms of like vocals or lyrics or anything like that. Like I welcome, Mike, Drew, and Ian. I mean, even if he has stuff like bring it on. Just because like for me, and this goes back to like the beginning, like I never really wanted to be strictly a vocalist or, doing vocal duties because like I just like it was something I was just like I'll do it because we can't find anybody, and then I just stuck. But um when it comes to lyrics, like sometimes I'll have like a stroke of luck and it'll just hit me like at work or wherever, and I'll just be like on my phone making a new note, like just like feverishly typing out like all the grammatical errors and everything. Like I'll just start typing everything out. Other times, like I'll have like a title for a song, and I won't have shit for lyrics for several days, sometimes weeks, sometimes even months. Like House of the Locust, lyrically, everything was done. Everything was done with that song. Even music, like we had everything done, pretty much demoed, and the only thing that we didn't have were lyrics. And so I like had to like force myself. I was like, okay, you are going to write something today. So I basically just like put it on my on my speakers, and I was just like, just play it until you're sick of it, until you come up with like something. In between work, in between driving to and from work, and at home, and even at the gym, like I tried to find as many songs I could that were like either that same kind of tempo
Mm-hmm.
or like a vocal cadence that I liked. That I was like, okay, I need like a reference point because I again up until that point, not a whole lot of our stuff was really mid tempo. So I didn't really like it was something like it was like an exercise for me because I hadn't done it. I hadn't really exercised that part of me yet, and just like going to the gym, like if you don't exercise something, that's never going to grow.
Yeah.
Um, so when it came to lyrics, like I kind of came up with a lot of, I want to say House of the Locust, I came up with on pretty much my own. Maybe a couple changes here and there came from like Mike and Drew, like when we were like demoing it. But in terms of like the newer stuff now, like there's a song that Mike has written the vast majority of, and I don't think I contributed maybe any guitar parts. I think Drew did a lot of it, and like we just kind of like arranged it. But Mike came up with the vast majority, if not all, the lyrics to his song, and with Drew's one, which like I can't go in a ton of detail with it because it's a newer release, but it's going to be one of the next couple releases that we have come out. Like I guess in terms of we have like, so I guess I can talk about that. We have three releases we're going to have like in the next couple months. Obviously,
Ooh.
the first one was Locust.
Mm-hmm.
The next one I think is going to be one of my other songs, and then the last one, if we can iron all the details, I think it's going to be one of Drew's songs. Um, but when it comes to like the lyrical portion of it, like that's the part I always struggle with the most. So I'm like hands off. Like a lot of times I'll be like, look, guys, I need help on it because like I'll sit there and stare at my notes or like a notepad, and I'll just be like, come on, dude, just write a sentence, just one.
Yeah.
Like when I went to go visit my family in Arizona, like I remember sitting in the airport and I'm like, okay, I told them I was gonna write lyrics while I was gone. I have yet to touch my lyrics once. And I was like sitting in the airport, like having this like existential crisis, like I don't even know what the next song's gonna be about. What the fuck?
Dude, I feel that so very much because there's times, man, where and my girl can attest to it where I'm like I'm in a creative mood and I'm like I'm going to go try and write or something and I'll
Yeah.
get home and I have absolutely shit. It's like I can't do it. And then there's times where I can write a song in 30 45 minutes lyrically. But like lately, man, I've been at like a severe writer's block.
Oh yeah. And what sucks, man, is like, dude, that's what I went in. I went through that like, and like working at like the last job I was at, it didn't help because I was so mentally drained. Like I could not think. And when I finally left that job, this would have been October of last year. That's kind of when like a lot of the like creative juices in terms of like other songs and lyric ideas started really flowing because I was like I didn't feel like I was like mentally overcharged with everything. And now like dude, when I run into writer's block, like I won't touch guitar, vocals, drums, anything pertaining to what it is we're working on because it's like okay, if I keep trying to force it, it's going to come out really contrived. You're going to hear that it's forced and contrived. And then the third part is like I'm going to listen to it, I'm going to hate it, I'm going to go back and I'm going to want to rewrite it, and then I'm just going to sit there and just be like I hate everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so
and
so for
oh,
writer's block, like for me, the thing is just like just take a step away and like go listen to things that you love or like past things that you did love, and then it kind of like you're like, oh, okay, let me think about this from a fresh point of view. and then usually it kind of like ease back into it.
I'll I'll be straightforward here. I may not be able to get to all the questions just because I'm having such a blast talking to you, dude. So I may not get to ask about every
Dude, no,
single song.
no, we can go, we can talk about and ask whatever you want to, man. Like as long, like my bedtime is like 11 o'clock, so like I'm good to go. As long as
You
you want to
wild
talk, like,
man.
we're good. So
11 o'clock. What are you smoking over there?
I know.
I'm 34 going on 90, man. So like I'm normally trying to be in bed by like 10.
Oh, dude, it's like usually like if I'm not doing anything, like if I get home from the gym and like I'm like looking around my house like I'm crazy, or if like my dog and my cat are already like ready to go to bed, I'm like, all right, well, I ain't far behind you. So it's like, all right, it's 11. I need to be asleep by 11:30. Like I got to be up and then go to work, and it's like that's like my internal clock now. It's like I can't turn it off.
Will Brawley, I'm an old man. I go to bed at 8 p.m. I'm only 37.
Oh, dude, I'm doing good. I'm doing good if I make it like during the weekends. Like I'm doing good if I make it to like midnight sometimes. Like I'll lose track of time. I'm like, well, time to go to bed.
Yeah, like I get lost on when I do the podcast, man. Like because there's episodes that will go for like 2.5 hours sometimes, just because I love talking to people, dude.
Yeah,
it's just,
yeah.
But so you brought up an interesting thing though, where you were talking about, when you get burned out.
Yeah.
And this is also, like I've told you on Messenger, I touch on mental health as well here.
Sure.
And when you're going through that burnout, I know for me, it's not usually just music that I'm burnt out on. It's usually some aspect of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for you, I think it was a clear job change that really kind of revitalized you.
Yeah.
If you could give any advice to anybody that's going through burnout of any kind and doesn't exactly know what to do, just simply like, what would you tell them?
For me, like reconnect with things that you love and enjoy. So we'll talk about like the last job that I was at, because that's really like the defining, like I want to say between, it was right after we came back from tour. So we had gone on tour with huge friends of ours. So if you're listening to this and you get a chance to check out another band that we love and I love personally, there are boys from New Jersey. They're named Morbid Cross.
Okay.
We toured with them pretty extensively back in 23, or it would have been last year. And this was like June, July, and those guys are like lifelong friends of ours now. And so we came back from tour, and I remember like I need usually a day or two to decompress after touring, because like you're so overcharged with like what's going on, like play, go to the next city, go do this, you're interfacing with everybody, you're talking, you're trying to make social and like post stuff and talk to people, and like it becomes really overwhelming. So like I always need a day to get home and hang out with my dog and my cat and do literally nothing. Like watch stupid videos on my phone, maybe watch like my favorite movie, like maybe watch like Godzilla or like Jurassic Park or something, and just decompress. Well, we came back from tour, and it was like the operation I was helping, because I'd kind of got shuffled around from operation to operation to go help different accounts that the warehouse company that I work for serviced. And like it felt like the day after I came back from tour, like I had this like anxiety of going into work. I was like, oh, it wasn't like, oh, I don't want to go to work, like I'd rather be playing music. It was just the like, I'm gonna go into work and I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna be getting hit with bats all day from management, from other people, and like I don't have the fucking energy for it.
Yeah.
And so I came back and I was like, I'm getting paid not nearly enough for like at the time I thought I was like for the roles and responsibility and things that I was doing. I was like, I'm not getting paid enough to like offset the amount of like mental stress that I was going through. And I had that talk with somebody, and they basically like they were like, we can't like maybe you need to give more so that you can be where you need to be financially. And
Mm.
I was like, dude, I'm already like tapped trying to just make it through the day. And so I was kind of just like I got to this like point, like you said, burnout. And the more that this went on, the more burnout and tired I got to where I was like, I'm doing good if I just wake up in the morning. And so around my birthday, this would have been August of last year. I remember coming home from work, having an absolute shit day, and it was my birthday. So I like normally like I'm like happy as hell all the way through my birthday. Like I'm like ready to go. Like it's my day. Like I get people that are like contacting me. Like it makes me smile. It makes me feel good.
Hell yeah.
And so I remember coming home from work, and I remember like taking my clothes off, and I laid in my bed, and it's like 5, 6 o'clock, and I'm just like, I just want to go to bed. I just want to go to bed. Like I don't even want to deal with anything. And so when I left that job, I had about a week and a half to where I didn't have to do anything, nothing at all. Like I just literally had to wake up and function and do whatever it is I wanted to do. And then in a week, I would start my new job. Well, during that time frame, I did like a lot of like mental health recovery during that time because I didn't have anything else to think about. So the first day, it was kind of just like you're on edge because you're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be at work, and you're like, no, wait a minute, I'm good. And for me, it was I needed a week to do things that I enjoyed, that I loved. So I could sleep in, I could go to the gym, I could play music, I could hang out with my dog and my cat, I could go see my mom and my dad. Um, I could go do anything that I wanted to do, essentially, and I wouldn't feel like I was under pressure.
Yeah.
And even if it was little things, like when we talk about mental health, when we talk about like trying to get out of that whole burnout stage, we're burnout because we're trying to keep up with like everything in our day-to-day life. We're trying to keep up with our bills. We're trying to keep up with friends, family, hobbies, pets, significant others, like whatever it is. And sometimes it feels like you need a break from like all of that. So when we talk about taking care of this, it's like, what makes you happy? And that's what I had to do for that whole week was like I remember waking up and kind of looking at like getting ready to go, I think go to the gym, and I remember like looking in the mirror for a minute and was like, why are you not happy? Like what is wrong that you're that like this unhappy or like just burnout or unwell? And I was like, because it's been so long since I've done something that makes me happy like in here.
Mm-hmm.
Like so like music has always been an outlet for me. Like I play drums and play guitar, and like even if I fuck up playing guitar for a couple hours, like I'll feel better after I hold one of my favorite guitar or whatever. Um, Same thing with drums. I can't play drums and be in a bad mood afterwards. Um, but I kind of was like, okay, this is a little bit deeper than that. So I did things that like I enjoy. Like I went to the gym and like I went as long as I wanted to. Like you don't have a time limit. Go. You're free to go as long as you want. And then I came home and I was like, okay, well, what do you want for dinner? And I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, well, you can eat whatever you want. Like, even if it's like little things that like you would take that you enjoy that make you happy. If you want to eat like spaghetti ice cream and have like garlic nuts, like go like if that's what makes you happy and that like makes this happy, like do it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't take care of your mental self, whether it's like having like a lazy day or doing something that you enjoy. In my case, like doing artwork or painting or going to the gym or watching like a Godzilla movie marathon. Like simple things like that just kind of like help you just kind of veg out and just kind of
Yeah.
not being so burnt out. And I've got tons of things that like have always kind of helped me decompress. My family's one, my mom, my dad, and my brother, and then my birth family. They live in Arizona, but like I love my family, and so when I'm out, like when I'm visiting them, I don't have to do anything to be happy around them. Like it takes zero effort to be happy with like my family. So for me, like spending time with them, spending time with my dog and my cat, or just doing something simple like going to get like a whole box of donuts, like
Yeah.
like something like that brings me great joy. Like, and I think a lot of people like they don't do things that just make them happy because you're so worried about um like what other people think about it. Also, before I forget, he said favorite Godzilla movie. Go. If we're talking classic era, I want to say Godzilla versus Destroyer
Oh.
because that's a very emotional one for me.
Okay.
Favorite Godzilla suit is the 2000 series Godzilla, so the Millennium Goji. But
Really?
oh yeah, dude, I've got so many figures of the Godzilla 2000 suit. That's my favorite iteration of Godzilla. Um, but
Okay.
but to go back and that actually will tie into what I'm talking about too, because like a lot of people like, especially around our age, you and I are the same, like around the same age. Um, a lot of people around our age, and whether they say they do or not, a lot of people they're so wrapped up in keeping up with the Joneses or everyone else's opinion of them that you forget to take care of whether that's the child in you or just the mental party that needs to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So, like for me, like I'm an adult now with adult money, and I can go buy the shit that I wanted to buy when I was like a kid that I couldn't have bought. So when you have like Godzilla figures like I do, I was just like, you know what? This makes me happy. So I'm gonna go buy this or whatever Gundam figure, and
Hell
I'm
yeah.
happy. I'm a happy dude because like I'm a very low maintenance dude. Like I don't need a whole lot of things that make me happy. Just simple things. Take me to get a snow cone. I'm a happy dude. Take me
Yep.
to get ice cream or like donuts or like simple food or like a movie. Like I'm the happiest dude in the world because like I don't need a whole lot, and that does wonders for my mental health just because like I can kind of unplug and just
Yeah.
enjoy with the gym and with music and all that good stuff. It's like a good. I have DBZ things. So do I. So do I have Super Saiyan 4 Goku on my forearm. Um.
You need to be on his podcast, dude. You
Oh
guys would have
yeah,
a
dude.
blast.
Yeah, I have a feeling me and him are going to talk about a lot of things. But
Oh, and
but
my
but
girl, Gundam
but
is awesome.
oh yeah, dude. Epion's my favorite Gundam. Um. So like for me, just anything that's a small happiness victory is like a step forward to like not being so burnt out.
Yeah.
Because what that is just you're exhausted, and if you want to put the depressed terminology with it too, like you're exhausted from keeping up with everyone and everything except for yourself, which is
Yeah.
so hard to do now.
Yeah. It we'll get to the comments here in a second because they got some good ones over here.
Yeah.
But I am so grateful for what you were just touching on as far as, doing the small things for yourself. Because like you said, we forget about it, man.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that myself where I'm like, well, I would really like to do this, but I could save that money and it could be like, an extra 15, 20, 30, 40, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, and I end up kind of like mentally crucifying my mind sometimes because it's like,
Mhm.
oh, well, maybe I should just not do that. And then the more I fight that urge, it's like the more I just get so tired of every
Yeah.
hobby that you could do. You know, like I'm a big comic book collector, in case you
Yeah.
can't tell from like the, you know, the background and everything. And it's like, that's an expensive hobby. I am not going to
Oh
lie.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so I can't do like what I would love to with that, but I got to the point, man, where I wasn't even buying like single issues because I was
Yeah.
just like, I was so mentally burned out, dude. I just walked away from all my other hobbies for so long, and I'm slowly starting to come back into it. And it's
Mhm.
like you said though, you know, going and taking yourself to get like donuts or a
Yeah.
coffee or something that you don't normally have because you don't feel like you're worthy of it. You know, it could be the
Yeah.
simplest thing.
Yeah.
And those things can bring a smile to your face. Like they
Yeah.
really can.
Yeah.
And the connection to that, and also, you know, like relieving burnout, I feel like, you know, it can't be minimized, because the more burnt out you are, like the more you're just not going to want to do anything for yourself. The more you're not going to want to do anything for yourself, the more burnt out you become.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
like those mental health days, man, like everybody says it nowadays, right? Like, oh, I need a mental health day. And it's like, they don't know what it actually means.
No.
Like, you know, like playing hooky is okay. Yeah, that can be classified as a mental health day. But like just saying that, you know, like I need a mental health day just so, you know, just for whatever reason. But it's like, if you're not actually decompressing
Yeah.
and like letting the good thoughts sink in, dude, it can wreak havoc on you too, though.
Yeah, because it manifests in different ways.
Yeah.
If you're just consistently burnt out, it starts taking a toll on you, like physically and emotionally. Like you don't you literally don't find joy in things anymore. You don't find and you'll start feeling like you have zero energy. And the thing is like, this goes back to like when I left my job, like for being so burnt out, it's like you're taking your energy reserves from like a previous time
Yeah.
just to maintain like energy that you would have normally had like a couple days from then. You need like several days to just like kind of like decompress.
Yeah.
And that's what was like, that took me a minute to realize was that, you know, sometimes like we put a timer on it and it's not really how long it should be. Because you'll be like you said, a mental health day.
Yeah.
Well, if you've been going all cylinders open for however long, whether that's days, weeks, months, or years, what makes you think a single day is gonna negate all that energy you've been expending, that you've been borrowing from reserves you didn't know that you had? So there have been times like in the past, like like after the pandemic, I had, and for me working at the job that I was at, like I had nothing but vacation time to just expend. And I had to like the only time I would take time off is if one, I was going to visit my family in Arizona, or two, I was on tour. And if I wasn't doing either one, I was like, well, I guess I'm not using them. And then as I got older and as time went on, I was like, wait a minute. Just because you don't use it, like they don't like they're not paying you for it at the end of the year, and you
Yeah.
lose it. So like, what are you gonna do? So then I was like, you know what? That's when we're gonna start using time to recharge. And of course, when I came to that conclusion, is when I was getting ready to leave that job, and then I was like, we're gonna take time for us to do nothing. Like just do like in that time frame, take you some time off, sleep in, stay up late, go
Hmm.
do things that you enjoy, whether that's like, even if you go to a store and you don't buy anything, or you don't go, or you don't get like some kind of food or whatever that like does what you want. Um just taking the time to just not think about things and just decompress.
Yeah.
Even if it's just laying in bed all day. Like that's the thing that like it drives people nuts. And like even me, like I have to like talk myself out of it sometimes, because there are days where I'm like, I'll wake up on like a Saturday or a Sunday and I'm like, just stay in bed and just chill. You don't have to do anything. You don't like you're not on anyone's time or watch or anything. Just go chill.
Yeah.
And you'll catch up like, oh, you can't stay in bed all day. Why the fuck not? And that's like the mentality like I keep trying to like not really like get into or break myself of, but like if you have a day where you feel like that's the right thing to do to recharge, like do it.
Yeah.
Like just because someone else doesn't do that doesn't mean that it's not okay, but like you've got to do something that recharges your mind, and everybody's mind is different. For me, if I don't have to think about anything, if I can just relax, if I can watch movies, if I can just hang out with my dog and my cat and literally just do nothing, I'm within like a day or so, like I'm like ready to rock. Like we're good. Like
Hell
I'm
yeah.
like I'm back to where I need to be. And with the job that I'm in right now and the position I'm in, like with Razorgrave is like it's a little bit easier now. Like there's obviously like there's no shortage of stresses from day to day life, but like generally speaking, like everybody, it doesn't matter what you do. Like you've got to have days and time where you just can unplug and go do something that makes you happy. Because if you're not mentally stimulating the happy side of you, then you will continue to be burnt out, and you will be tired and depressed. And it's like we're not supposed to keep that in all the time.
We're not, and we'll step it up out of the low end here in just a second. But I want to tell you, like, thank you for being so open with how you process that, because there's sometimes, man, like, people won't know how to process things, and they're looking for others to kind of explain what they do just to get like a bearing. So for you to be
Yeah.
so open about it, man, that meant the world to me. So thank you.
Oh, dude, I don't mind at all. I feel like in the last like couple years, especially around like just from like the time the pandemic ended and I won't touch too much on it, but like that's around the time I got like separated and divorced too. But like I have whatever you want to call it in the last like 3-4 years, a lot of time where I've had just me to hang out with and just my kids, meaning my dog and my cat, which are like they're basically my kids. But
Hell yeah, dude.
so for me, like I've had a lot of time to, and I think this is a big thing too, is to reflect. And for a lot of people, they don't have a lot of time to reflect and like get it out and think about like where they stand, what they want, what you want to do, where you want to be, because we're so wrapped up in go 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 that you know you don't talk about how you feel. You don't talk about what little things either, make you sad, make you happy, make you depressed, make you angry. Um, because everybody's gotten so, not everybody, but I will say that like a lot of people I've met in the last couple of years, a lot of times, uh, it's easier to just hold everything in and some people like they'll hold things in and wait for that storm to pass, and then they'll be like, okay, we're good. But when I was a kid, and again, I don't mind talking about any of this stuff like at all. Like I feel like people need to hear it because it's like you're not the only person in the world that has problems where it's stayed hidden for so long and you don't have an outlet for it, and like you're not alone when you feel like you're like trapped all the time.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, and this is and like so this is we'll get deep for a second just because like I like again I don't mind.
Okay.
So I was adopted as a kid, and when I was growing up, I always kind of felt like I had like a hole, like in my heart and mind. And my parents, bless their hearts, for always kind of doing what's right for me and always looking out for me. Um, but we did different kind of therapies, institutions, blah 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 blah. And mine was always music, but like I always like going through a lot of that, I guess, institutionalizing and like awareness was like I learned how to like cope with how I felt. Just because you bottle something up and you put it in a box, and even though that feeling passes temporarily, just because you kick that box to the back of the room and it goes into a like a closet or wherever, it doesn't mean that it's gone. It just means that you're not focused on it anymore. Like you took an event, whether it's something small, whether it's something massive like a failed test, or an embarrassing thing that happened to you, or somebody said something to you during the day that pissed you off, or somebody cut you off in traffic, or whatever it is. You broke something, or um, you snap a guitar string, or something, anything. But you have something that you fixate on, and it just goes like this, and you're mad or upset or whatever it is, and rather than communicating with whoever, close friend, family, significant other, whoever, you let it fester and rot. And I get it, some people want to keep it locked inside, great, until it starts manifesting in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, just because you kick it to the back of the room doesn't mean it's gone. It just means it's out of sight, out of mind, until you have that same kind of event pop up again. Now you don't know what to do with it, so you're just like, and then like you have nowhere for it to go.
Yeah.
So early on, my parents and teachers and other close people to me were like, you can run from this stuff or you can approach it. And just because you approach it, that doesn't mean just be like, okay, it made me mad, blah, 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 and then we're done. What did you do with it? How did you address this and move on? And you can kind of like extrapolate that to relationships, or even like band situations, or whatever kind of scenario. You can extrapolate it on all those things, because it's like, yeah, okay, I'll give you an example. If Drew and I had a tiff about a song, and we're pissed off at each other about it, but we don't talk for a week, and then we get together and it's just like, look, dude, I'm pissed off, you're pissed off, like, let's meet a middle ground. And we talk about like why, or the logic behind it, or what was it that pissed us off, or what was it, like, what can we do to like reach a compromise somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of people, especially with like our generation, like they refuse to talk about stuff because it makes you vulnerable, which in a lot of times with people who do care about you, who do, whether that's family or whoever, have your general best interest at heart. And if you don't say something to, at least cover ground or reach a compromise or bring awareness to like something, whatever it is, it will continue to be a problem.
Yeah.
And you won't know how to handle it later on or in the moment. And then you'll mentally or emotionally just shut down. So that's why, like, as I've gotten older, I've had an easier time talking about things. Now, if you came up to me like 14, 15 years ago, I might not have been like as responsive or open. But as I've gotten older, especially with everything like that's gone on in the last couple, however many years, it's become a lot easier to just talk about things, because again, nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about what's internal with them. And it's just like, well, there are people that do care about you, where you can be vulnerable and really have that growth together. Or you can just listen, like being sad, depressed, anxious, and burnout is a lonely way to live. And nobody has to do that. And that's why for me, like, I'd rather just talk to people. And that's why we've been here for almost 2 hours, because I love
know,
to
right?
freaking talk. So, like I said all that to say that, like, you being burnt out, being tired, and not addressing things, like it's not a healthy way to live. It's never a good way to live if you can't just say what's on your mind, what's on your heart, or what's bothering you. Or even if you're burnt out, like I was in the job situation, like I finally mustered up the courage to say something. And I afterwards, and of course, when they were just like, "Oh well, whatever," I was like, "Okay, well now I know where we stand. This is easier for me now."
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing goes with your day to day life. You got to talk about it. You got to talk about something.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much for being that not just open but also insightful. You know, there's a lot of all of that is really truth in what you said, man. And like for me personally, music is a huge outlet. Like, you
Thank
know, if I can't do my music, or if I can't come on here, I've said it before on the podcast, like if I can't come on here, or if I can't do music, or
Yeah.
if I can't make myself right, like dude, I feel like I'm burning alive.
Yep.
And it's literally just eating me from the inside, and I'm gonna snap at
Yeah.
the nearest thing just because they looked at me the wrong way, or they
Yeah.
don't even have to look at me the wrong way. I'll make up a reason to snap.
Yeah. It's like you're looking for like a misguided missile. Like you're looking for like a target, and like sometimes there isn't one, so you make one.
Yeah, so you know, making up a target and misguided missiles is going to lead me into the next title of the song,
Yeah.
Headhunter. So, what do you remember about Headhunter?
Oh, this is my song. This is fun.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
so Headhunter, I wrote that. Geez, that was always kind of a song that had like I had like a lot of the riff ideas, and I had just never done anything with them, and I had kind of like Frankensteined it together, and I was like, okay, I like where this is headed. Like I started figuring out like, okay, I like the bridge. I had the bridge and the main riff before I had anything else. And then like sometimes like if I'm just playing it, like playing a song or playing like a riff that I'm working on, sometimes I'll have a happy accident where something like will just it'll flow with it. And I'm like, "Oh, record it before you forget. Like do the video of it playing it really slow so you know what it is and then play it normal speed." Well, so that riff came really easily to me. The only part of the musical process that was difficult was like the chorus. But like when I found that riff, I was like, we got a song now. We're in the right direction. Now, lyrically, um, Headhunter, that came about. God, I want to say that would have been 2019 18 or 19. It wasn't that long after our very first like Northeast tour. So it would have been 2019. Um and I remember initially just kind of like wanting to write about like violent like a violent crime, like almost like a serial killer almost
Hmm.
without explicitly like it's about this, serial killer. It was like a lot of it was just like um I'm trying to get the best way to describe it. Um, like if somebody was like a trophy killer, like a lot, like almost like the Predator, almost.
Dude, that's exactly the vibe I got from it.
Yeah, that's. I'm a huge sci-fi nerd. Like when it comes to like aliens, like the xenomorphs and Predator and
Oh yeah.
Terminator. So a lot of you'll find like a couple references here and there in some of our songs, but Predator was one of those ones that was like I kind of wanted to think about it in terms of like if I was the predator, that's why the chorus is like dead of the night, thrill of the hunt, swing of the blade, sever the spine. That
Damn, dude.
that was a lot of where the reference was coming from. Was I was like, okay, I know what I want to say, but I don't want it to be like as like really like I didn't want the lyrics to come off as like cringy, but I was like, okay, who's your favorite like violent killer? And I was like, the Predator. I was like, okay, write about the Predator, but just find a way to like make it like relatable where it's not so like far removed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So some of those lyrics, a lot of it was actually inspired by the Predator.
Dude, that just
So,
made my night.
if I had to choose between like those three franchises, like if you're going with like RoboCop, Terminator, Predator, and Aliens, I probably think Predator's my favorite one.
Oh, that's such a tough one, man.
Because Terminators are like, again, there's certain things that I love about each franchise more than the others, but then it's just like, I mean, okay, the first two Alien movies, Alien and Aliens, incredible.
The
Predator,
rest? No.
Predator 2, incredible. Terminator 1 and 2, incredible. So it's like, damn, which one has the more soft spot? And it's like, I think my older brother was more into Predator than I was. So I always kind of wanted to be like him. So I was like, I really like Predator. But then, again, Terminator and Alien are like right behind it.
All right, so if you had to choose not just the franchises, but the sequels, what franchise had the strongest sequel?
Whew, okay. Well, if you're going by like Alien and Aliens, if you look at the original Alien franchise, so 1, 2, 3, and 4,
Mm-hmm.
I still find positives in 3 and 4, but in terms of like story continuity and just like what I love about it, like Alien and Aliens 1 for me, like Alien and Aliens, like it stops at Aliens. Like that's you can't touch, like Aliens from start to finish is just like, oh, it's a good movie.
Oh yeah.
Predator, I've always really liked 1 and 2. Like I always thought, like as a franchise, those like Predator 2 was such a good follow-up because it's like you're bringing the most savage predator and hunter to modern day civilization, not the jungle, but concrete jungle. So you've got gangs, turf wars, drug lords, everything. And it's like that's such a cool scenario to think about in terms of like bringing like the predator into. But I feel like the first, like all three of those franchises, like between Aliens, Predator 2, and Terminator 2, God, I never get tired of watching the second Terminator movie.
Dude, that's what I was gonna say.
Ever.
T2 holds my heart.
Yeah, T2 is like, it's such a well written movie.
Yeah.
Like of those three, it's hard to beat that because it's a good conclusion to that original story with Sarah and John Connor.
Yeah.
Like that's such a good story because like it's like they stop Judgment Day, and the way that like Linda Hamilton kind of closes that out, where she's like, we go to an unknown future. It's like, okay, we're back on track. And then like, again, like the Terminator sequels after that point, like I enjoyed them as movies, but like as in terms of like original story continuity, it's like, man, just leave it alone.
Yeah. We'll get back on track here in a minute, but dude, I don't know about you, but timeline fatigue is something I'm going through like crazy with movies.
Oh,
Like,
dude, yeah.
It's like now every franchise is like, oh, but we went back in time, or an alternate timeline altered this, and it's like, okay.
That's where you start getting messy, is when you start having like continuity problems, like when you're like, oh, we had a retcon where it's like, oh, we can travel back to the past, or like we're writing a prequel that takes several hundred or whatever many years before the main story. It's like, if you do that, you need to stay with the main lore that's established.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't write something that suddenly just throws all these things out the window. Like that's a no. Don't do that. Don't mess with it. Like
I agree.
Like with Alien and Aliens. Okay, like I kind of like how the setup of Alien versus Predator 1 and 2 coincides with Predator 1, 2, and Predators, and then you have Alien and Aliens.
Mhm.
Like I remember drawing all of them out, and I'm like, okay, I kind of like how that flows. But then when you added Prometheus and Alien Covenant, I was kind of like, okay, those are cool stories, but they don't. There's still so much ground that's missed between those and Alien that you're like, it doesn't make sense. Like, and then what threw me for a loop, uh, if you look at like the Alien continuity, right? It would technically, if you're going by movies, you have Prometheus, Alien Covenant, Alien, Alien Romulus, and then Aliens. And I was like, what always bothered me was like, there's such a gap between Alien Covenant and the first Alien. It's just like, guys, you have this established lore from Alien 1 and 2. Why the fuck do you keep deviating from it so much? Like, fill in the gap.
Dude, I hate that about prequel movies anymore, where it's
Yeah.
like they have all these things that other movies had no chance of ever doing, but they're like, but no, they had this like, X amount of years ago, but it wasn't prevalent in the first movie, buddy.
Yeah. That's the biggest issue I have. Like when you look at I haven't watched a lot of the like streaming shows like Rings of Power or some of the Star Wars ones, but like I know enough like about them that I'm like, if they're getting ragged on for continuity problems, like I don't even want to watch it.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to watch it. Like I've heard like and if you get like if you remove like all people's like political views or whatever removed about it, like things that I've seen about like the Acolyte for Star
Oh,
Wars,
dude, fuck that show.
dude. Like if everyone's like, oh, it's you're bigoted because it's like no. It's just you're taking a lot of what's established in the main Star Wars continuity lore,
Mm-hmm.
and you're throwing it out the window.
Yeah.
That's what I have a problem with. It's like you have the prequel series, Phantom Menace, Clone Wars, Revenge of the Sith, and then you have the original trilogy, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. It is like all 6 of those together. Whether you're a fan of either one, like it's a pretty established lore.
Yeah.
And then to go before that and then suddenly be like, oh, Anakin's not that special because there's other ones that are like, it's like, dude, what are you doing?
That I'm trying I'm trying not to. Oh God, you have to choose your words anymore so carefully.
I know. That's why I was like, we don't have to touch on it too much. But I was like, that's my biggest problem with it.
But I'm going to. And all I'm gonna say is, fuck whoever wrote The Acolyte. Like you took something that was supposed to be so special to the Star Wars lore and reduced it for absolutely no reason that was needed. Like it upsets me so much, Sean. You have
dude,
no
it's just it hurts because once it's been made, it can't be unmade, and of course, it exists somewhere in the lore. And it's just like, take it away, please.
Like what kills me, and dude, I think me and you just need to have a podcast episode where we talk about nothing but sci-fi movies and shit.
Oh yeah,
I think, dude, I would be here.
Always, dude, have me come back. I'll be a happy dude.
Dude,
I can talk about all day long.
I do what's called free for all episodes where like if I don't have a guest lined up, anybody's willing to join. So if you're ever free and you see me live, dude, just drop in. I'll send you the link and we will just tear it up. But the last thing I'll say on Star Wars or any of that is that I hate that Disney, once they bought it out, erased 40 plus years of lore in the Star Wars extended universe that they had at their fingertips.
Yep.
And they're like, but we're going to do this over here because,
because we're trying to make money.
Yeah.
And I get it, but you got to understand that like if you have a well-written constructed story, just stay with it and leave it alone.
Yeah.
But like again, I understand like they have a business to run and like churn movies out, but like you're don't undo the story, please,
I
please,
agree.
just leave it alone.
And if you want to undo the story, find the nearest cliff and
Yeah.
yeet yourself off of it. That's my mental health tip for the day. No, Sean, I got just a few more questions and then I will let you go. So I know you said that I believe Drew wrote Feast for the Rats.
Yes.
Okay. So I won't touch too much on that one just because I don't want to put you on the spot for a song that you you weren't the helm at. But I will ask you, moving forward stylistically, we've already touched on some of like the changes in the songs. How do you feel about it, man? Like this with Razorgrave, it's definitely a departure from Neverfall.
Yes.
And there's this whole new chapter of not just the band, but your lives that are really coming into play. And do you feel stylistically that there's also going to be a shift more so than with House of the Locust?
Yes and no. So I can't go into a ton of detail about like the songs that are written and like demoed and all that stuff. I can kind of speak a little bit on them. Because a lot of people, because that has been a comment that like we've heard, it's like, oh, you guys aren't totally changing your style, and it's like, no, we're just evolving a little bit more musically. Because as great as that 2/4 thrash beat where it's like that's all great, and I'll never get tired of writing stuff like that, but with the stuff that like we're writing now, like again, and it goes back to the name change too. We noticed that a lot of our stuff was getting a little bit like not necessarily like straight up death metal, but it's darker. It's darker, a little heavier. But we were like stylistically, like when the next album comes out, and it should be, fingers crossed, if it comes out towards like the beginning of like next year, which is when we're kind of like tentatively shooting for. When that album comes out, there's going to be a lot of stuff on that record that still sounds like us.
Okay.
There are some things on that newer record, like there is one song that I wrote on there. It's its code word or its key or its working title was the death metal one.
Oh.
And when I say that, it's because from a writing standpoint, it is probably the busiest, maybe probably the most challenging to play at the speed that we play it accurately. And it does sound like a lot of like, it sounds a lot like, it's very influenced by, I want to say like Deicide and Revocation. Because I have been listening to them along with like Orbit Culture, Mammoth Grinder, Slayer, Metallica, Megadeth, Death Angel, and Testament religiously, probably for the last like 2.5 years.
Damn.
So you can tell where a lot of our influences come from this cycle. It still is us. It's just a little darker and heavier, which is why a big reason why we decided to change the name too.
Hell yeah, dude. Man, I'm stoked. Like for whatever you guys have coming out. When the album drops, are you guys doing physicals?
Yes. I know that we're gonna be doing like me and Drew and everybody's kind of like we're spitballing merch ideas right now because we just got like a lot of the newer merch in, so the Locust tee, the new logo shirt, koozies, patches, things like that. I still need to order guitar picks. I still have a couple Neverfall picks, and I'm like, man, I gotta get rid of those things and get the Razorgrave ones. But when it comes to like merch and all that good stuff, like I know we're doing physical copies, but like I know, and like I can't say 1,000% sure. I think we're gonna do like a select run of like vinyls.
Oh shit, dude.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at those options. When we figure out what title we're gonna settle on for this album, because it is actually so. One thing I can spill the beans on a little bit on is that it's gonna be like a part one, part two record.
Ooh.
Like and when I say part one, part two, we're not talking like, 4 or 5 songs come out and then like here's a year or so later here's another one. Like we're almost working in tandem on both records at the same time. That's a lot of the reason why it's taking so long is because we've stockpiled. Jesus, I want to say like 16, 17 songs.
Oh damn, dude.
And we're dissecting them and like pre-production, demoing all of them, and we're literally taking them apart song by song and being like, okay, we're gonna record it as it sits, sit on it, chew on it, and listen to it for a little bit, burn it out in our heads, and then come back with like all the notes, trim all the fat, and be like, okay, here we have a new song. Now let's like craft this and then put that through the ringer again. And if it comes back the second time and we have like a banging ass song, now we know like, okay, we have a song that we can put on either the record that's coming out now or later on down the road. But like as it sits, like I think we've pre-production demoed probably close to like, I want to say 8 or 9 right now.
Damn, man.
So we are hard at work.
Dude, absolutely. Before we get to the final stretch here, the last comments I wanted to let you see was Will Brawley, fave Vegeta quote, go.
Oh man. Oh, there's two. There's two that immediately come to mind. One is the first time Vegeta goes Super Saiyan, so against Android 19, when he's like, tell me, does a machine such as yourself ever experience fear?
I love you so much right now.
Either it's that one, or it's when Goku and Vegeta are fighting Kid Buu on the planet of the Kais, and he's like Kid Buu just absolutely pummels him. And he comes out of the crater and he's like, what's so funny? And he goes on that whole spiel. He just comes out of the hole just covered in blood, and he's just like, what are you gawking at? And he's just like, he goes on this long tangent. He goes, you're nothing, just a trickster. And he's like, I am the prince of all Saiyans. Like that whole, like I'm trying to remember all of it because it's so good when he comes out of the hole, just absolutely beat to a pulp, and he's just like, I'm not fucking dying yet, dude. Like
dude.
that is still one of my favorite Vegeta moments. But here, I'll throw you for a loop though, and then we'll switch gears because like I could talk about this all day. So on my forearm, and it's kind of hard to see, but like I've got Super Saiyan 4 Goku on this forearm. It's hard. If I go like that, you might be able to see it a little better.
Yeah.
But I love Goku. That's like what I grew up watching was GT, Z, everything when it was coming out on Toonami.
Dude, yes.
Now, if we're gonna talk about strictly my absolute favorite Saiyan, that's not Goku. It's Bardock.
Really?
Yeah, Bardock is my favorite Saiyan. I have one of my gym tank tops is Bardock's Saiyan armor. So it's the dark blue and green. And then I've got, I forget if it's Ben Presto or Bandai. I forget who it is, but I have a Bardock figure in my living room, and he's like got like the energy ball like back here, like he's like mid scream. He's like about to launch it at Frieza, and I was like, I need that.
Dude.
Bardock is like he's my saying that like I feel like he needs like there needs to be like a solid moment like that he needs with like Goku or like just anything where like he comes back to somehow the main timeline. But but like at the same time, like if they do that, like he's got to be done like massive justice.
Hell yeah.
Like if they don't do him justice, like I'd rather just not even touch it at all.
Dude, you threw me for a loop for sure, dude. I thought you were gonna say Broly.
No, like I mean, like I love Broly, Gohan, Trunks, Goten, obviously Goku and Vegeta. I mean, even if you go into like Gogeta and Vegito, like all of them are super cool. But like in terms of like just as a Saiyan as he sits, like he's not even the strongest one. Is Bardock because I think it's Goku with Vegeta's attitude.
Yeah, oh, dude, definitely.
so it's like I was like, that's what you want. Like that's what everybody wants. It's like there's moments where people like they'll post it on Instagram where it's like there's the difference between Goku and Kakarot, right? It's like Goku's like the happy-go-lucky, and then when you have like Goku pissed off and it becomes like Kakarot, it's like, yeah, that's what I want in like a Saiyan. Like that's what I always wanted. Bardock is just like one like violent ass episode of him with it. It's just like yes,
dude. Yeah, we for sure need to have an episode where we just do nothing but bullshit about movies and anime because that sounds like an episode that I would be dying to do.
Yeah, yes,
dude. Let's do it. But here we go, man. You got a show coming up on the 29th.
I do.
Brother, you are teaming with two of my favorite bands of all fucking time. I actually, I've never gotten to see Norma Jean live, but ironically enough, when I was working at the gas station here in Virginia, they came to the gas station one night.
What?
And dude, I have the message. I'll have to screenshot it and send it to you. I have the message that I sent them after they left where I was like, I'm so sorry. I was kind of starstruck. And that was like 2018, 2019. They were going to Alabama to record their next album at the time. Yeah. And then Darkest Hour, dude, like, holy shit. What a freaking show. Now, this is the Razorgrave debut show, is it not?
This is the first show as Razorgrave.
Dude.
So,
what are you feeling?
Oh, dude, I feel great. But I will tell, okay, so, like, story time. Now that we've been doing this for 2 hours, story time, but, like, I still love it. But, so, Darkest Hour, this is our second time opening for them.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, we opened for Darkest Hour. This was a fun fucking show. This was 2016 or 17, I want to say. I can't remember if Ian or Ethan was drumming for us at the time, but this was so sick because it was, I forget everybody that was on the bill because I know it was more than just us. I'll have to look at the flyer again and see if like Mike or Drew still has it. But it was us, Havoc, and Darkest Hour.
Oh my god!
And this was at Ground Zero. This was at Ground Zero. So this is like our second like home away from home. Like that's where we like really started outside of the radio room. And that show was like, dude, my neck was so fucked the next day. Like between our set, Havoc, and Darkest Hour, I was just like, oh, dude. Like, it was brutal. It was worth it, but, like, man, that was a stacked show. And I can't say 1,000% for sure, but I will say that there are two major shows that we have potentially on the books in October. I can't say who it is.
Okay.
But they're in our neck of the woods that we may or may not be on those bills on. And we're until I get like 1,000% confirmation, I cannot say yay or nay or even who it is because I don't want to be like, we're opening for, and then be like, oh, like, we can't. But like, if it happens, believe me, it'll be all over the place, all over, like, and you'll see me fanboy so hard. It's there's only been maybe one time I've been like starstruck and like really like almost hard to like conduct myself. And we'll get into that story. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. But like,
You're good, man.
so right before the pandemic shut everything down, and I'll preface this by saying that we had built and established a little bit of a connection with this band for some time. Is actually Death Angel.
Oh,
So Death Angel, again, like going back to that like show in 2012-13 where it was Death Angel, Testament, and Anthrax. We basically, like, without sounding too crazy, but like we basically followed them for every date that they came around here, like between like North Carolina, Georgia, and South Carolina. If they were on the bill, we're going. Like, meaning me, Mike, and Drew at least. We saw Death Angel and Testament, Anthrax like in the span of 2 years. Like, we saw them in Charlotte, we saw them in Atlanta, and then when Death Angel came through Charlotte on just their own, they played the Ultraviolence the whole way through at Tremont Hall in Charlotte. So we got there, it was like a Monday, and like we got there at like 2 p.m. because we were just like, there's gonna be a line wrapped around the building, and like we don't want to miss it, and da-da-da-da-da. Like, our friends in Skin Cage and some other bands were opening for them, so we were like, we gotta get there early. And we get there, and there's like nobody there but like them and their crew. And we're like, this should be illegal. We're like walking around with Death Angel. Like, Will, their drummer, was playing pinball. And then like we ran into Damien, their bass player, and Ted, and we were like talking with them for a while. And then, of course, like we went apeshit when they came on and played the Ultraviolence the whole way through, because we'd seen them like 2 or 3 times up at that point. And like I still have that flyer somewhere, where all of Death Angel signed the Ultraviolence poster at Tremont Hall. Like, it's literally the album cover, and all of them have it signed.
Oh man.
So, but like the only person that I hadn't had signed it, and I was waiting, like, because he's a big influence on me for a number of reasons. But Rob, their guitar player, he plays the gnarly, crazy looking Jackson. Like I always wanted a guitar that kind of looked like his, which is why I play a BC Rich Beast. It's like his without it being so similar. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But he came out and he was really, 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 really cool to me and Drew and Mike, and he signed it. And me and him were kind of talking. He's like, "Are you a guitar player?" And I was like, "Yeah." and like, so me and him were kind of like nerding out. And I was like, "Do you teach?" And he goes, "Yeah, dude." He's like, "Send me an email tonight, like when you get home, and we'll set up some like lessons." So,
dude.
So after the show, of course, like I'm like, okay, don't be a weird like over the top fan and like send him a bunch of spam. So I sent him a message, and I was like, "Hey, dude, I was the dude that was at your show tonight that you signed the flyer for." And then me and him started messaging back and forth, and then I took guitar lessons from him for a couple of years, actually, for a while, like up until this would have been right before The Evil Divide came out. I think is right when I stopped taking lessons from him. So this was 2017, I want to say. But we had just like established kind of like a friendship, like teacher student kind of thing, and every time they'd come around, we'd go see them. So we became like it became like a repetition, like kind of like going to meet and hang out with Death Angel or going to see them. Of course, like when they go on stage, like me and the guys are always like, we're in the pit, like we're going like ape shit every time, like just because they're super cool guys, amazing live, their music's killer, like there's nothing to not like. So fast forward to they were doing their headlining tour for Humanicide, and it was Hellfire, Ex Mortis, and Death Angel. And we saw that they were coming to Athens, Georgia. So of course, us being the freaks that we are, we're messaging. Like I kind of text Rob, and I was like, "Hey, so like, what do we gotta do to open for you guys?" And he's like, "I already put the good word in for you." And I was like, "Yes,
dude."
So we ended up sealing the deal, and we were like hustling tickets to sell to get like to meet like the requirement, which was like we're super stoked to even just have that opportunity. And we made it work, and we opened for them. And of course, like they sent us like an official ass itinerary, like be here at this time, load-ins this time, set up here, sound check here, da, 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 da. And like that was like our first time like being in like a super like organized, well-oiled machine of like here's like a professional like super serious like and not to say that we haven't, because we have a long roster of like bigger influential bands that we've opened for, like we've opened for Havoc, Battlecross, Hatchet, Ex Mortis. Like there's a list that we have that's just it's super long in terms of like us getting opportunities for open other bands, which we've been super gracious every single time we get those. Like even somebody saying like a nice word to like putting the bug in someone's ear, like it means the world to us. And we've had opportunities in opening support, like Obituary. We didn't ever think that would ever happen, but we did.
Jeez, dude.
And dude, that was a wild show too. But when we got to the 40 Watt Club in Athens to open for Death Angel, like I remember like walking in and getting our shit like in like a real small, like we got our like we're really good about like getting our stuff into an area and like compact as possible. And like we got our stuff and in comes Death Angel. And we're like, "Hi, how are you?" So like and they've again, we've met them a good couple times, and every single time super fucking cool guys every time. But we were in sound check, and I forget what we played, but I think it was Ted, Will, and Damien. So the drummer, guitar player, one of the other guitar players, and then Damien, the bass player, watched our entire sound check. And we were already like, "Oh fuck, this is like nerve-wracking. We're not even like playing yet." Super cool. And then what was really humbling was like when we went to open, like we were the very first opening band. So it was us. I want to say there was another band. I think there was another band there. I can't remember. It was like Beast Mode or something. And I remember looking out at the crowd, and like everyone was still coming in, and it was like a pretty big crowd. And I remember looking out, and I like happened to look back at where the merch tables were, and I could see all the members of Death Angel standing out there. The only one that wasn't out there was Rob, because I think he had an interview he was doing. And like I just remember looking out there, and I was just like, they're watching our set. Holy shit. And there's a picture I'll send it to you when I find it, but there's a picture where I realize I'm like, this shit is really happening. Because like the picture's hilarious. I'm looking at Drew, and my mouth is like, I'm like, freaking the fuck out. But like that's one of the times like I've been like genuinely just like overwhelmed, like starstruck. Like I couldn't even like word properly sometimes. Like I still can't believe that's a thing. Like same thing with like opening for like Obituary and stuff. It's like it's just like it seems so surreal when we do stuff like that, because it's like I will always view us as like an okay band. So like when we do things like that, I'm always like, they either really like us or somebody has a lot of faith in us.
Somebody's paying them a lot of money.
Yeah, like that's always how I'm always like, man, we did good just to like, make it this long, and it's like to have people think about us that highly. Like it's always very humbling, and it speaks volumes about like how many friends we've made along the way, and it's so good. It's such a good feeling.
Yeah.
Every single time, man. And like our first show with our first show as Razorgrave, opening for Darkest Hour in Norma Jean, especially in our hometown, is like, oh, that's cool, man. Like
Dude,
I'll never get tired of feeling like that.
That's like a god tier introduction for Razorgrave, man.
Oh, dude, I love it. It makes it just like you want to talk about like happy butterflies, where it's just like no, we're metal. We don't have butterflies. We have bats. I got bats in my stomach.
Well, dude, it's coming to that time, but I would be remiss, like I said before we went live, man. I got to give you your flowers, dude.
I'm all here for it. I appreciate it,
man. Like heart to heart, dude. When me and the boys in KBO were doing our show, dude, like we were nervous as hell,
but we still knocked it out of the park, man. Y'all were still awesome.
Dude, I appreciate that, man. It's funny that you were talking about, like, you know, not having much room on the stage and everything, because that's kind of how it felt at the sound stage for us. Like, I couldn't headbang because, like, I was like, I have like 2 inches to headbang because of all the gear.
Dude, it's always such a bummer. Like when the headlining band has like so much stuff on stage, like you're like, this is really cool, but damn, could you give me like a couple more inches, man, please?
But man, like I remember after our set, dude, you actually before I even got to you, dude, you walked up to me and like you told me I did a good job. I don't know if you remember that or not, man, but that meant the world to me, man. That really did, dude. And your demeanor
from the heart, man. That was a well-earned compliment. Like you guys were fucking sweet.
Thank you, dude. Your demeanor meant a lot to me, man, because like I've met a lot of musicians where it's like, you know, you some don't want to meet their heroes, if you get my drift, you know.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then there's people like you do, just like out of nowhere, you know, you just walk up and you're like, hey dude, like so and so, and man, I took it to heart, and that's why I was really stoked to get you on this one, man, because I watched you almost in the front row while you were throwing down up there, dude, and the energy and intensity, like I strive to be what you guys were up there as far as energy.
Well, thank you, man. That means the world. And like I said, you guys were freaking awesome too. So it's like we gotta trade some more shows again. And like I'm always glad that like I can be as, you know, friendly as possible with everybody, because it's like everyone's out there doing what they love. And I never want any of like my heroes or anyone else that I look up to just be like, it's fucking cool, whatever. That's why like I try to be as encouraging as possible, man. And that's like, again, straight from the heart. Like you guys were awesome.
Thank you, man. I have to get you in touch with our guitarist Jacob, because you're both gearheads.
I love it.
Dude. But man, we definitely hope to do a show with you guys. We're in the process of training up another drummer. We had the fortune of having our drummer at that show, Evan. He was our fill-in drummer, and he knocked it out of the park, dude. Like I couldn't ask for anything better. And we got an amazing drummer coming up with our Justin Price. And once we get him trained up, dude, we're gonna be doing shows around the touring states. Like that's what we want to do. I definitely, dude. And then before that, I want to get you back on this fucking podcast, because this has been a blast.
Yeah, I agree, man. I had a fun. We've been here for 2.5 hours, and like I said, I can keep going, man. Like I'm all for it, dude.
So here's the last question of the night, my brother, and I ask everybody this: you went beyond the breakdown with 6 scars tonight. How the hell are you feeling?
Pretty fucking good, man. Pretty fucking good. I appreciate you for having me on.
No worries, man. I can't wait to do this again with you. And until that point, man, be well and stay in touch.
You too, man. Thank you so much for having me. Take care. Stay
awesome. See you, brother. You too, man. What more can be said? That dude was absolutely phenomenal. I won't keep you guys around for too much longer. Just a little bit of house cleaning to get to. If you want to follow the podcast, please follow me at Linktree, linktr.ee/BTB Pod 6 Scars. That tells you wherever you can find me. Do you want to donate to the podcast? You want to, help me get some more equipment? Everything that you do goes to keeping the lights on here. You can do so through Streamlabs or Cash App. They are down in the comments below. I can't thank Sean enough. Like, this was absolutely phenomenal, and I can't wait to have him back. Next week, it is another free-for-all with a special guest. It is going to be somebody that is actually in my personal life. They've never really been on camera in this aspect before, so they will be kind of like a co-host, and you may see one of the more exotic pets that I've gotten the privilege to own. With that being said, thank you for watching. You could have been anywhere, but you stayed here for this marathon of an amazing podcast. So for that, thank you. Have a wonderful night.